Our officials here tonight, John Gwynn, Jackie Sanders, and Garrick Shannon. Happy New Year, Abu.
Happy New Year to you.
Looking forward to it as we join the rest of college basketball world, bringing in a new season of college hoops. Norfolk State in the road green, Rhode Island in the home white. We're ready for basketball. John Gwynn ready to throw it up. And a new season and a new era of Rhodey basketball is underway here at the Ryan Center. Mike Powell wearing number 1. His sophomore averaged better than 8 points a game and led the team with 3.5 assists a game, working the point. Milesevic, wild shot, almost got it to go. And Norfolk State has a rebound.
Well, we saw that the offense is set for Rhode Island that time. Multiple screens, not a lot of dribbling of the basketball. That time, Milesevic saw an opportunity to get to the basket. Got a little tripped up going in, so was a little off balance with that shot.
Rob Johnson wearing number 1, 6'8" senior out of Georgia, played at Marist College. Averaged 6 points a year last year. And a foul called on Rhode Island.
Well, Norfolk State is going to attack the basketball quite a bit. One of the things they want to do is obviously defend the perimeter. Rhode Island wants to defend the perimeter. Tough matchup for Mike Powell right now playing Pendarvis Williams. Great player, great shooter. Had a great game against Missouri in the NCAA tournament. And the size differential, we'll see whether or not that has an impact as this game goes on.
2 shots, the foul on Milesevic. And at the free throw line, Malcolm Hawkins, redshirt junior out of Norfolk. First year with the Norfolk State team. You see his vitals. The record last year, 26-10. Number 15 seed, knocking off Missouri. 2 15s won, you'll remember, last year in the NCAA tournament. Lehigh, the other one. Milesevic, a little blood perhaps. He's going to get some attention from Mike Montero. And he'll stay in the game.
And Coach Anthony Evans, very high on Malcolm Hawkins, did not have a great opportunity to play at Delaware, and really feels that he has a lot of ability and is really expecting him to really step up his game this season.
Well, Milesevic not cleaned up to the liking of the officials. Maybe a shot to the mouth. Maybe the mouth guard had a little blood on it too. So he's out, and checking is Alwayne Bigby, transfer from Northeastern. He actually graduated from the Huskies program, and as a graduate student now here at URI, playing with the Rams. Tough pressure in the full court, applied by Norfolk State. Broken easily by the Rams. Munford into the front court. Bigby for Powell.
As you can see, we're going to see a lot of defensive pressure from both teams. Norfolk State, they like to pick you up 100 in the full court.
Malone turns and fires, a little too strong. Bigby kept it alive, and Brooks comes in to grab it for Malone. Fouled at the basket, fouled hard. Teammates sprint over to help him up, and he'll go to the free throw line.
The one thing that Rhode Island has done for many, many years, they've seen their seniors elevate their game in their senior years and give them and provide leadership and also success on the floor. Andre Malone certainly is one of those players. Comes in with, really with very, very good skills. Transfer from Auburn University. He needs to be able to hit that shot that he just got, because Rhode Island's going to get a lot of those shots because of the offense that they play. Lots of screens, and they're going to want to get Milesevic as well as Malone open on the outside, including Xavier Munford.
Foul was on Malcolm Hawkins, his first. A couple of free throws for Malone, who played 10 games last year for the Rams. Didn't play in the final 10. After becoming eligible in the second semester, he focused on academics. Here he is with the first 2 points of the season for the Rams to put them on top 2-1. Rhodey picking up the defensive pressure. Outside Williams, long 3 attempted, no good. And on the glass, the putback for 2 by Brandon Good, 7-footer out of the Bronx.
Yeah, Norfolk State has really very good, they got good size.
To the basket, no good. The follow by Brooks, fighting hard for the loose ball, and it's last touched by Norfolk State. We'll see in a fight out of Ryan Brooks that I think the fans here at the Ryan Center didn't become accustomed to seeing in the past.
Well, I think Ryan Brooks, to say the least, has been a little disappointing in his career at URI. But I know Dan Hurley really would like to see him get off to a good start because he does believe he has skills and wants to see a little bit more intensity from him.
Good hustle coming back defensively by Xavier Munford. It'll be Norfolk State ball.
And Rhode Island will have to be conscious about Norfolk State trying to get down the floor. As I mentioned before, their transition defense really has to be very good tonight.
Rob Johnson will put it into play. Johnson gets it back and knocks down the 2. Really turned up his game at the end of last season. Very good in the postseason, all-tournament team at the MEAC Championship. First field goal for him, and it is 5-2. Brooks for Powell. Jumper on the way. Good with the rebound, and a foul called on Brooks, battling for the rebound.
Yeah, for Rhode Island on the offensive end, we will see the shot clock wind down because they will be patient on the offensive end. A little bit of a quick shot by Munford that time, a little off balance. But also, you will not see that basketball being pounded into the floor. There you saw Mike Powell last year probably would have dribbled that basketball, but that time he was patient, waiting for the screens and for players to come off those screens and be open.
Milosevic back on the floor for Rhodey as Bigby heads to the bench. Chris Brown for Johnson. Johnson's pass broken up. Good defense by the Rams, and here comes Milosevic looking for Powell. Malone, top of the key for 3. Cold shooting so far for the Rams, and it's grabbed now by Norfolk State. 3:15 into the opener here at the Ryan Center. 5-2, the early lead for the Spartans.
And that, as I said before, that is a shot that Malone can make and needs to make if Rhode Island is going to beat this team now, because they, as we talked about before, they lost a lot of starters from that NCAA team, but they've got guys coming in who have lots of skills, and we also have a coach going against Dan Hurley, who's also been a very successful coach, not only at the level with Norfolk State, but also at the junior college level.
Won the MEAC tournament for the first time last year. The 86-84 win over Missouri, the biggest win obviously in Norfolk State school history. Lost to Florida in round 3 of the NCAAs. Foul was on Powell. That's his first. Hawkins with the pull-up. Way too strong, and a rebound for Rhode Island. Grabbed by Xavier Munford, who played at Iowa Western College. Has a relationship dating back to St. Benedict's prep days when Dan Hurley was his coach. Rams looking for their first field goal of the new season. They're 0 for 6, including 0 for 2 outside the three-point line. Brooks with 9 on the shot clock. Malone had it knocked out of his hands with 5 to shoot. Malone makes a move, gets a shot, and is fouled, and will head to the free throw line. So Norfolk State fouls the jump shooter with the shot clock winding down, and when we come back from this timeout, Andre Malone will step to the free throw line with the Rams down by 3. We were going to take a guess as to what would be the biggest thing to click. It would be scoring in the first game of the season, especially with so many new faces and a turnover. You can control defense. You can control the effort as best you can, but the offense and the shots not falling right now for the Rams.
Well, they're not. They're 0 for from the field right now. 0 for 6, 0 for 2 from three-point land. But we have seen the Rams be able to get open shots. A couple of them were a little bit rushed, but mentioned before, Andre Malone had a couple of shots that he probably could have made under normal conditions. But what has happened also is that once URI has actually gotten themselves in the lane, this is where they've been able to get something out of their offense in getting to the free throw line.
Malone has all 4 of the Rhodey points. from the free throw line, and it's back to a one-point game. Original starting five on the floor for Rhodey. Johnson with a good little move on the inside for two. Rob Johnson is a guy who is going to get points this year. He played a supporting role last year for this Norfolk State team, averaging 6 points a game. But when you lose your best player in Kyle O'Quinn, who was a 1,000-point, 1,000-rebound guy, who went for 26 and 14 against Missouri, there's going to be some other points to go around. Turnover by Norfolk State, and the Rams will go back the other way.
Yeah, that time down the floor, they put Rob Johnson on a place on the floor where it was going to be very difficult for anybody to give help. Rhode Island wants to give help on Rob Johnson and Pendarvis Williams. And we see Xavier Mumford has been switched over to Williams right now. Williams has not produced much in the offense right now, but I think that's a little bit better matchup for URI to have Mumford on Williams.
Milosevic and Johnson were kind of slapping at each other, so Garrick Shannon, one of our officials, steps in and breaks it up before it goes any further. You saw Mike Amon checking into the game, freshman from Hazlet, New Jersey, making his collegiate debut. True freshman, so an 18-year-old on the court. We can go through the rosters of each of these teams with the college transfers and the junior college transfers, and guys who are a lot older than that 18-year-old trying to post up on the inside right now, getting his first taste of college basketball. Powell, 9 on the shot clock. Jamel Fuentes into the game. Mumford, he can shoot, and he shows us knocking down his first points as a member of the Rams.
Well, Rhode Island's going to have to make those shots, and that shot was contested by Pendarvis Williams, and not getting anything. Norfolk State's not giving Rhode Island anything, pressuring them all over the floor.
Inside for two is Williams. His first two, averaged 12 points a game last year for Norfolk State.
And as we see, running their offense well, taking advantage of Rhode Island on the inside. We saw Johnson a little bit earlier, and this time Pendarvis Williams able to get himself open on the inside.
Milosevic had that one shot, now finds Amon on the inside. Good look by Nick Milosevic, and Amon has his first collegiate points.
And that's a good basket for Rhode Island that time. Very patient. Caught Mike Amon on the inside, and a good basket for Amon. Probably getting rid of some of those first game jitters for the freshman.
Jordan Weathers, number 21, is in for Norfolk State. Amon fighting for the rebound, touched it last, and it will be Spartans basketball. Alwayne Bigby comes back in for URI, and Rashid Gaston, a freshman, the only freshman on this Norfolk State team, comes in wearing number 35. Post player, 6'8", 235 for number 35.
Good body, highly touted high school player out of Ohio. They're expecting big things from him.
Long three on the way, and good. It's Pendarvis Williams who knocks down his second field goal. He has 5. 12-9, Norfolk State. Making Powell work for it. Now for Milosevic. And as Abu mentioned before, Norfolk State just extending the defense right up inside the shirt of any Ram with the basketball.
Well, defensively, they play very similarly to Rhode Island, where they're giving pressure, they're helping out.
6 on the shot clock. Yeah, a little bit too much pressure that time as Johnson gets whistled for the foul.
And Rhode Island really has to be patient with the defense like this. If they begin to break down and just put the ball on the floor, that's exactly the way that Norfolk State wants them to play on the offensive end. So Rhode Island has to continue to run their sets, continue to screen. They will get open shots if they remain patient.
Powell back for Mumford. Mumford knocked down 37% of his threes at the junior college level last year, and a carrying violation called on Rhodey. Norfolk State will come back the other way.
And as Rhode Island becomes a little bit more comfortable with this offense that Coach Dan Hurley has put in. Because what you see right now is because of the pressure, Rhode Island, when they come off screens, they're catching the ball really too far away from the basket, so they're not an offensive threat. What's going to happen with that offense is you'll begin to see some backdoor cuts if Norfolk State applies a little bit too much pressure on the top.
One of the 5 returning players for the Rams, T.J. Buchanan, is onto the floor, number 13. And Buchanan gets whistled for the foul. There you see TJ, who started 13 times a year ago, battled a toe injury heading into the season, required surgery, had the high ankle sprain last year, so he's had some injury problems, but out there here for the opener. Picks up his first personal. And another whistle against Rhodey. This one's going to go against Bigby, I believe. That'll be the 5th team foul on the Rams with 12:20 to go here in the first half.
And T.J. Buchanan had some ankle problems last season as well. But this is a guy who can be, very solid, big body, defends very, very well. They're going to need him this season.
Traveling violation on Norfolk State. That's the 3rd turnover for the Spartans. 1 for Rhodey, and here comes the pressure from Norfolk State. They'll back off a little bit as Munford will bring it up court. Powell on the bench right now. Bigby. Buchanan. Buchanan lost the handle, and Norfolk State picks it up. You can see right away off the turnover, they're off and running. Good job by Rhodey to get back on defense, and almost a turnover, but Johnson hanging in the air to keep it in play, and the Spartans will set up. Fuentes to the basket, can't get it, and here comes Milosevic, and that's knocked out of his hands. A foul called on Norfolk State. Now get us to our 12-minute timeout, and when we come back, Jordan Hare, highly touted freshman for the Rams, will make his Rhodey debut. Another freshman getting his first points. Mike Amon on the inside. 3-point game.
Brings 3 players to the ball, making it very difficult to make that shot. 3 players converge on the ball. They come down on the fast break. Didn't really have their spacing very well, but Nick Milosevic does the right thing, puts pressure on the Norfolk State defense, and takes the ball to the hole.
Milosevic on the floor with Bigby, Buchanan, Jordan Hare making his Rhode Island debut, freshman out of Saginaw, Michigan. 6'10", 205, wearing number 4. And the senior out of Serbia will step to the free throw line. Mike Powell also on the court right now for the Rams. 2 free throws for Milosevic, who averaged 11 points a game last year. Played in 22 games, making 16 starts. Suffered a broken hand after going for a career-high 25 against Yale. Missed 8 games. As his first 2 points of this season, making it a 1-point game.
Well, Jordan Hare in the game, a little bit more highly touted than Mike Amon coming in, but it looks like it's going to be a little bit more of a development project for Jordan Hare, but he's a guy who's going to be able to give Rhode Island a presence on the inside.
Air ball, and Rhode Island will come back the other way.
And how about that play by Nick Milosevic? A little bit more intensity for him on the defensive end. We didn't see a whole lot of that from Nick last season. But once again, this is a different team. It's got a different attitude about how to play defense.
There's got to be that full court two-way responsibility for players. Milosevic, we see him as an offensive player, a guy who can shoot from the outside, and with his size at 6'7", can score on the inside. But I think your value to this team is going to be judged at least this year on what can you do on the defensive end or in the full 94 feet.
Well, Rhode Island had, was the worst team in the Atlantic 10 on defense. I mean, they gave up, over 75 points a game, and that's just not a way of being able to win basketball games.
Right now, Rhodey on offense. Milosevic to the paint. Had it knocked away, but with that size, he can fight on the glass. Buchanan picks it up. Powell, crossover. Kick to Milosevic. Open 3 is good.
Well, that was the play of the game right there, Eric. We saw Rhode Island really giving it to Norfolk State on the glass. And by virtue of that, they come up with a wide-open shot for Nick Milesevic in the corner, and he knocked down the shot that he had to. It's
modest, but it's the largest lead so far for Rhody. They're up by 2, approaching the midpoint of the first half. Chris Brown. Williams to the basket, knocked away. Some more good work done on the defensive end. And the Rams come away with the basketball with Malone. Powell, a little shove from his head coach. Same spot for Milesevic, same result. Timeout, Norfolk State. It's just funny watching Rhode Island celebrate like that was the winning hoop at the end of the game. And Dan Hurley acting like someone act like you've been there before, fellas. Calm down a little bit. Let's watch the sequence. Five-point game.
What Rhode Island does is they work on certain things and they get the result. There you see Nick getting in the middle. We said before that they really are able to get some productivity when that happens. T.J. Buchanan does a nice job. And Mike Powell doing what he needs to do as the point guard. Gets inside and finds Milesevic in the corner for that wide-open 3. And as we saw, Rhode Island on the defensive end once again, Jordan Hare really making an impact immediately on coming on the defensive end. We see that with his size, he has the ability to be able to block shots. And from that defense, Rhode Island was able to come down once again on the fast break and find Milesevic again in the same corner for another 3.
Just like that, a 5-point lead for Rhody. Milesevic with 8 quick points, 4 for Malone. And now out of the timeout call by Norfolk State. Powell will make Fuentes work for it, bringing it up across half court. Milesevic with the overplay, trying to take it away from the freshman. Open 3 is good. Zayek Estime Jr. gets his first points. Two-point lead for Rhode Island, 9:20 to go first half. Opening night here at the Ryan Center. Xavier Mumford, who has a 3. Looking for another one. That's off the mark. Rebound for the Spartans. And Hare a little aggressive, trying to knock it away, and is whistled for the foul. You mentioned at the top of the telecast, Abu, about development, and sometimes that's forgotten. You think recruiting and what are you going to get out of a player in a game, but when you take a look at the coaching staff with Dan Hurley and his brother Bobby and Preston Murphy, you've got some pretty good players back in their day who can help get the players on the court to maximize what they can do.
Right, and all of those players and coaches have been involved with successful programs. So they know what it takes. They know what it takes to win.
There you see Dan Hurley talking to the official, Bobby Hurley talking to someone on the court, and see Preston Murphy, who it was good to see him being retained, really, Abu, because it was a struggle last year, and we all know what happened at the end, and Jim Barron relieved of his head coaching duties. But Preston, who obviously played the game at a very high level here at URI, member of 3 NCAA teams, he deserved to stick around. He's a guy who's worked hard, and I think Dan Hurley recognized that hard work by keeping him on his staff.
Absolutely. I mean, he's a Rhode Island guy. One of the things that you mentioned is very important is you win with really, really good talent. And Preston has demonstrated that he has the ability to be able to identify talent. He's got good networks, particularly in the Michigan area. And it was important to keep him on staff. One reason certainly was that they were able also to make certain that one of their top recruits, Jordan Hare, maintained that relationship and came to the University of Rhode Island. But Preston, really has worked hard, as you mentioned. Great skill. I mean, you got a backcourt over there right now that probably can pick up the basketball and challenge some of these Rhode Island players right now. But once again, players who have been involved with successful programs and also guys who've coached at a very successful level.
Powell for Mumford. Milesevic, 1-point lead for the Rams, 8:25 to go first half. Mumford, little hesitation, not afraid to take it to the basket, couldn't get it to go. The Spartans push it back the other way with Fuentes. Well, Norfolk State can move it up the court quickly, but they can't finish with Brown. Brian Brooks back into the game for Rhode Island. Milosevic wants to put on his own sprint to the basket, and he's fouled at the hoop.
Well, there you see, we know Milosevic can shoot the basketball. When in his sophomore year, he was one of the best shooters in the country, field goal wise as well as from three-point. But here you see Nick has got a piece of his game that's really very, very important. It's going to be important for this team. He has the ability to put the ball on the floor, find seams in the defense, and once he gets into the lane, he can shoot it with either his right or his left hand. And so we've seen him be really very successful, very effective in this basketball game because he's been able to shoot the ball on the outside, but he's also gotten on the inside.
With the coaching change, you wonder who's going to hang around. And so many players who we saw here at the end of last season with the Rams moved on to other teams, transferring out. New coach comes in, but Milosevic, one of those who stuck around. Senior now with 10 points. Now, of the four players returning, only Powell and Milosevic were on the floor at the end of the season. Remember, Brooks and Malone didn't play down the stretch, so not a lot of experience coming back from the end of last year, but playing some spirited basketball here in the first half. It'll be Rhode Island basketball when we come back. 8-minute timeout, 3-point game.
Nicely to his own man, forcing that jump shot to be a very tough jump shot, and as we saw, an air ball. So then you see Andre Malone playing defense in a way that we didn't see Rhode Island play last year. Not only did he help out his teammate, but he got back to his man and forced that player to take a very, very tough shot.
Andre looks a little different as well. Dropped a couple pounds, seems to be in pretty good shape. We've seen him flying around the court here today. He seems to be a better looking athlete here, at least one game, or one part of one game. That's what the eyes tell us.
Well, I think that's absolutely true. He did drop some weight. And, you know, and when you understand defensive principles and you know where you have to be on the floor, it forces you to have quick feet. And we saw quick feet by Andre Malone that time.
Malone will head to the free throw line where the Rams are a perfect 8 for 8 tonight. Malone is 4 for 4. Milosevic is 4 for 4.
And the players are making nice adjustments right now where it's been very difficult to get anything on the perimeter against Norfolk State unless it's come from the inside. We saw Rhode Island got on the inside, broke the defense down. They were able to find Milosevic on the outside, and they've also been putting the ball on the floor effectively and getting inside the lane and forcing Norfolk State to foul.
The foul was on Esteme, his third personal foul, and Andre Malone will head to the line. Another free throw for the senior. Made his debut last December in the game against Providence a year ago. All 5 of his points coming at the stripe so far. He's a perfect 6 for 6. The team a perfect 10 for 10. And the lead is back to 5 for the Rams, and they bring the pressure full court. Now they'll drop back as the top player for Norfolk State, Pendarvis Williams, brings it across into the front court. Approaching 7 minutes to play here in the first half. That one way off the mark, but on the offensive glass, the putback from Brandon Good. Missed by so much that Good was in the right place at the right time, and he didn't expect to get something over there probably.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to rebound a basketball that doesn't actually hit anything. And that time, Brian Brooks was not able to react quickly enough to that ball, to that air ball.
Malone couldn't get it. Milosevic tracking it down and saving it, and Brooks has it. Good hustle play from Rhode Island, and Powell will call out a play. Malone halfway down, and it's grabbed by Williams. Williams for Johnson. Kevin Lila St. Rose is on now for Norfolk State, wearing the 0. That's off the mark, and Powell Hauls it in for Rhodey. Less than 6 to play. First half, 3-point lead for Rhode Island. Mumford to Milosevic, cutting to the basket for 2. Happy to have Ray Perry courtside again. He'll tell me the official number. I believe it's 5 assists on 5 field goals so far for this Rhode Island team. But I leave that to Ray to figure out. It'll be Norfolk basketball. Here's that last 2.
Well, what you see, Norfolk State really pressuring, but there you see Milosevic being smart, breaks the play down instead of looking for the ball on the perimeter, makes that backdoor cut. Great pass, and Mike Powell says, yeah, that's a great job, Nick. That's the way Rhode Island has to play. You see them being able to make adjustments to the way Norfolk State is playing, and they're taking literally what the defense is going to give them.
Dan Hurley looking for an explanation from the call. It will be Norfolk State basketball. Rhode Island has 5 field goals. They have 5 assists. Haven't shot the ball great, though. 27% from the floor so far here in the first half, but the lead is 5. Turnover. Powell with Buchanan back in the game. Powell, the spin move, spins it in for 2. Seven-point lead for the Rams, their largest of the half. And Malone, I believe, is whistled for the foul. Yes, indeed. Malone gets called for the personal. That'll be his first 8th team foul on the Rams. So 1-and-1 coming for Rob Johnson.
Then we saw Mike Powell on that play before. Beautiful play by Mike Powell. There's a point guard who also thinks a lot about scoring, especially when he gets inside the lane. That was just a great play by Mike Powell.
You just saw Dan Hurley gesturing to one of the officials about the 2 hands, and we talked to the officials before the game, and it's always good to make clear heading into the new season. We read all about it, but one of the things they're looking for, the points of emphasis, and they talk about the 2 hands, and maybe that's what Coach Hurley was referencing, that they missed that down on the other end of the floor.
And that's one of the things that they pointed out to us, as you mentioned, that we're going to be looking for the 2 hands. That's one of the things that they're always going to be looking for, and also low post play to make certain that it doesn't get too rough on the inside.
Less than 5 to play first half. The feed to Gaston. Gaston can't get it to go, and Amon back into the game has the rebound.
A nice job by Mike Amon that time. Rhode Island's going to have some toughness on the inside, and they know Mike is going to provide that for them.
Big B for Amon. A couple of freshmen working, and the foul called on Gaston as Amon spun to the basket. That'll be the 7th team foul on Norfolk State. 1-on-1 coming for URI.
A quick move to the baseline by Amon that time. Really took advantage. Beautiful drop step. Put the ball right down on the floor. Got the defender on his back, and subsequently he had to foul him.
Amon too strong in the front end of the 1-on-1. The first miss from the line after 10 makes in a row for Rhode Island, but they get a second chance.
And Alwayne Bigby, graduate student, not a lot of skill, athleticism, but a lot of hustle that he's going to provide in good defensive play.
Inside of 4 to play first half, and a whistle goes against Norfolk State, and a 1-on-1 coming up when we come back to the Ryan Center with 3:56 to go here in the first half. After falling behind early, the Rams have come back to take a 6-point lead on opening night.
These guys, I think, over the course of the season.
You had to like what you saw from Powell last year. Here's a guy who was thrown into the fire, a team that was struggling, a freshman at the point in a very competitive conference where we think back, so many good guards playing the Atlantic 10 year after year. So it really was quite a learning experience for this young man.
Yeah, and he had a very good freshman season. You would have liked to have seen that his assist to turnover ratio be a little bit better, but he's got Dan Hurley, Bobby Hurley, and Preston Murphy. He's going to improve in that category, and we've seen it so far tonight, playing very much under control.
3 assists, no turnovers here to start for Powell. Whistle will go against Rhode Island. That will be team foul number 9 on the Rams. Amon gets whistled for the foul.
And in fact, in this first half, only 2 turnovers for Rhode Island against a team that plays great defense and pressures all over the floor. So that's really a testimony, once again, to discipline, playing under control.
Free throw is good from Brandon Good, replacing Kyle O'Quinn at the 5 spot. Very tough challenge. Again, we talked about O'Quinn. He was the star of this team a year ago, 1,000-point, 1,000-rebound performer in his career. Now with the Orlando Magic.
And Kyle O'Quinn, a player for Norfolk State, he only had 1 scholarship offer coming out of high school, and that was at Norfolk State. And he just turned out to be a tremendous player for them. So many players who come out of college as seniors are looking for opportunities to make the pros. They go to the Portland Invitational, and he wound up being the MVP of that particular tournament.
When we talk about player development, how that'll be so important for this Rhode Island program, and credit to Anthony Evans for getting Kyle O'Quinn to the point where he'd be a 1,000 guy and an NBA draft pick. Amon fighting on the inside is fouled. Well, the crowd here at the Ryan Center appreciates the hard work. A little bit of lunch bucket basketball shown by the freshman from New Jersey.
And that's why Dan Hurley said that Mike Amon will wind up being a crowd favorite. Tremendous hands on the inside by the big guy, and gets it back up and forces Norfolk State to make the foul. Nice play by Mike Amon that time. And he's got to work on his free throw.
I'm not going to let the first 16 minutes and 58 seconds judge the entire season, but I do have a feeling we're seeing the Achilles heel from the freshman from New Jersey. 0 for 3 from the free throw line so far. There's one.
Good call, Eric. You can see that.
I got the sight lines down. How many years have we been here? 24, 25? No. This is the 10th year of the Ryan Center, so we know we've got the sight lines and the angles down here from our beautiful spot courtside. Nice new table here for a new era of URI basketball. We're pumped. Here's Fuentes. Less than 3 to play in the first half. 6-point Rhodey lead. Johnson, Brooks there to help challenge at the rim. Norfolk State can't hold on to the basketball. Powell somehow kept the basketball. Foul Mumford. No good. Spartans come away. Johnson threw it away. 7 turnovers now for the Spartans. Mumford showing some speed, getting to the hoop.
Speed, athleticism, Mumford, so much more athletic than I thought he was going to be. I thought he was just a shooter, but this guy can really play. Beautiful drive to the basket and took that up with his left.
Junior college Division I All-American last year. 3-pointer is good from Lila St. Rose. Played just 11 games last year. Scored a grand total of 6 points. Already has 3 here at the start of a new season. 1:50 to go first half. Rhodey by 5. Powell. Looks like he forced that one, and Norfolk State will push it back quickly with Williams.
Yeah, Mike sometimes gets very confident on the offensive end and decides he's going to do it himself. That time broke the play. Not a good decision.
Good makes him pay on the other end. 7 points for Brandon Good off the dunk. And it's back to a 3-point game. Malone back for Powell. Powell will try again. He was fouled taking the shot. Was he attempting a 3-pointer? Yes, he was. 3 free throws coming up for Mike Powell. Fuentes gets whistled for the foul.
And again, Rhode Island fortunate on that. Norfolk State fouling the shooter beyond the 3-point line. That's a definite no-no. Powell, a good free throw shooter.
Second time Norfolk State has fouled a jump shooter here in the first half, and with 1 minute exactly to go, 3 free throws coming up for Powell. 74% free throw shooter last year as a freshman. Powell can score. He'll be a playmaker for this year's team, certainly. Went for 21 in back-to-back games last year at UCF and at BC. Went for a career-best 8 assists against Dayton. 2 more free throws coming for Powell after missing the first. Be sure to stay with us at halftime. We will have a conversation with Thorbjorn, the director of athletics here at the University of Rhode Island. He'll talk about the process of bringing Dan Hurley here to URI and what his expectations are now and in the future under this new head coach. 2 out of 3 from the free throw line for Powell. He'll check out. So it's Buchanan, Malone, Mumford, Milesevich, and Brooks, the 5 on the floor for the final minute for Rhodey. Williams defended by Mumford. It's like Williams wants to give it a go. And an offensive foul. Mumford sells it well. A little bit of talk after the play between Williams and Mumford, perhaps. That's 2 personals on Williams, and a timeout being called by Rhode Island.
And a lot of talk before the foul as well. He's talking to him the whole time, and he's baiting him a little bit. Nice play by Mumford. Looked like he might have been moving just a little bit, but he was giving ground the whole way.
A little bit of talking after the fact, as we mentioned. Well, Pendarvis Williams is going to have a big target on his back, the only returning starter from last year's MEAC championship team. Played both guard positions last year, would start at point, move to the 2. He's been held in check so far tonight. 5 points on 2 of 5 shooting, 1 for 4 outside the 3-point line. And he'll take a seat on the bench with those 2 personal fouls.
You know, right now, Eric, I mean, this is a good effort, and I think consistent the way Rhode Island is going to play, at least as far as effort is concerned. One thing, my initial conversation with Dan Hurley, is one thing he said to me almost immediately: we're going to look to attack on the offensive as well as the defensive end. And we've seen that. Rhode Island was being taken out of their offense early in the game. Shooting percentage was very low because they were forcing shots from the inside. Then they began to find the seams on the inside of the Norfolk State defense, forced them to change their defensive scheme just a little bit. And Rhode Island began to find open shots, and consequently, their shooting percentage got much better.
About 7 seconds, the difference between the shot clock and the game clock, as Powell brings it into the front court. Powell, Mumford, Milesevich, Brooks, and Malone on the floor. Mumford will try it, can't get it. And with the shot clock off, here comes Norfolk State. Fuentes holds it. 15 to go in the first half. Back to Johnson. Again, Williams, their top player, on the bench right now. 7 to go. Tough shot. Good defense shown by Rhode Island. Brooks holds on to it. Chance for a final heave here from Powell. And they say it would not have counted if it went in, but that is a good way to end the half with a defensive stop for Rhode Island.
And we got the highlight on Nick Milesevich, because once again, another excellent play on the defensive end by Nick Milesevich, showing some senior leadership on the offensive as well as the defensive end. And for Mike Powell, certainly as far as his development is concerned, that may be the most important stat of the night. That he has those 3 assists and he has 0 turnovers. Played very, very much under control. And that points off turnovers, 10 for Rhode Island, 0 for Norfolk State, and they forced 9 turnovers and only had 2. That is a huge stat for Rhode Island.
Fuentes knocks in a 3. Fuentes getting a start here in the second half for Norfolk State. He's out there with Johnson, Williams, Good, and Hawkins. Meanwhile, for URI, their original starting 5 on the floor: Powell, Mumford, Malone, Milesevich, and Brooks. Milesevich Mumford short. Brooks, another offensive rebound for Rhode Island. That is their 9th of the game. 3rd for Ryan Brooks. Malone 0 for 4 from the floor. Mumford was 2 for 9 from the floor in the first half. 9 on the shot clock. Milosevic spinning, floating, won't go. Fuentes takes it right at Powell, and Ryan Brooks comes up with the block. Second block for Rhodey. Milosevic has the other. Brooks wants to try to score. Can't get it with the left hand. Williams back for Hawkins. Fuentes gets the screen to the basket. Tipped in to tie the game at 30.
And Rhode Island starting the first 5 minutes of this second half. The way they began the game, a little cold. Offense a little sputtering just a little bit. Not very, very fluid.
Good. Got the tip in, and we'll go back the other way. Whistle against Rhode Island. Offensive foul.
And Ryan Brooks has the ability to be able to block some shots from time to time coming from the weak side. Nice job by Ryan that time. But Rhode Island, it's their offense right now that's sputtering a little bit. And this Norfolk State team, even though they lost some players, they're a team that's a championship team. They've been to the NCAA. They have a lot of confidence, and they're not going to quit. So Rhode Island's going to have to maintain the pressure, the kind of pressure that they put on this team in the first half.
Foul was on Mumford. Fuentes drops it inside. Good on the offensive glass. I think that was blocked by Brooks. That one was definitely blocked by Brooks, but Rhode Island took off without the basketball. Johnson, count it, and the foul.
We see Ryan Brooks once again coming in, helping on the inside. But Norfolk State tenacious on the offensive glass. They're able to get that basketball back again. And the result is they're going to get to the free throw line for 2 more.
Johnson finishes off the three-point play. Malone picked up the personal foul. An 8-0 run to start the second half for Norfolk State. Milosevic. Back for Mumford. Mumford, the three on the way. Rhode Island really needed that. 8 points for Xavier Mumford.
Well, they really did need that. And Rhode Island ran their offense a little bit more patiently that time. Got an out open shot for the guy who they really needed to knock down the shot, Xavier Mumford.
The miss, but good, sticks with it to put it in for 2 more. He's in the double figures now with 11. Malone, pull-up challenge. He's 0 for 5 now from the floor. Good defense from Norfolk State, and here come the Spartans. Williams, open three, is good. Malcolm Hawkins knocks down the 3, and Dan Hurley calls timeout. We'll take it as well. 15:51 to go here in the second half, and Norfolk State has come out on fire here in half number 2. They've erased the 5-score Rhode Island 13-3 so far in the second half. They are 5 of 10 from the floor here in the second half as well.
Well, one of the keys in the game was transition defense. There you see Malone does a nice job, but Nick Milosevic just gets caught standing still, not able to get out to Hawkins in the corner. You have to maintain your defensive pressure on your man. Malone did a decent job against Williams coming down the floor, but Milosevic just kind of got caught sleeping that time.
Milosevic into the corner. Mumford's three is short. Follows his miss. The floater won't go. Amon into the game, fighting on the offensive glass, and Milosevic ties it up. Possession arrow Rhode Island's way. With that whistle, that will get us to our 16-minute timeout. It comes with 15:33 to go in the second half. 5-point game. Thanksgiving against Loyola of Maryland. The Muse Tavern, more than just a restaurant, and home of Dan Hurley Radio Show. For more information, visit musetavern.com. Out of the timeout, it's Rhode Island basketball. Mumford, explosive step to get free, just couldn't make the shot. And here comes Norfolk State.
And as we see with this Rhode Island team, they can ill afford, periods of drought. They don't shoot the ball well consistently, and so right now they're really having some difficulty.
Amon with the rebound. Powell throws it out top. Malone. Milosevic, the runner, for two. Milosevic is down and not up yet. Back the other way, the dunk from Malcolm Hawkins, and meanwhile, Milosevic, you can see, still fighting to get off the floor.
If there's one thing that Rhode Island can ill afford, and that is to have injuries. They have such a short bench, and certainly having Milosevic go down is going to be very difficult to sustain for Rhode Island. Just the kind of play we probably came right down on somebody's foot. There he goes right in. Probably sprained his ankle. And that doesn't look good right now for Milosevic.
Tough to tell. They weren't going to stop play because Norfolk State had possession. Milosevic continues to try to get off the court. They're not taking him to the locker room, which at first glance is a good sign, but we'll see. Rhode Island basketball after the dunk by Hawkins put Norfolk State back on top by 5. Powell. Alwayne Bigby on the floor for Milosevic. The pass inside for Malone, knocked away. 8 on the shot clock. Let's watch from another angle, see what happened with Milosevic on the drive.
You see Milosevic, Norfolk State does a nice job stepping in. Still couldn't see what happened down low there, but I suspect that Nick Milosevic may have stepped on a foot and sprained his ankle.
Malone, they say the ball was kicked, so they put a little extra time on the shot clock. Mumford gets hacked on his way towards the basket, and a foul is called. It'll be the first team foul of the half called against Norfolk State.
I think we've seen Norfolk State make a few adjustments themselves defensively. They're still pressuring on the outside and forcing Rhode Island to drive the ball in the middle, but they're collapsing down very, very effectively, making it very difficult, Rhode Island, even when they get into the lane now, to be able to make shots.
Pendarvis Williams checks out of the game. Good picked up the foul. His second personal. Mumford back to Powell. 40-35, Norfolk State on top second half. Rams led by 5 at halftime. Spartans have come back to take a 5-point lead, their largest of the game. 10 on the shot clock. Bigby, aim it inside, draws the foul.
For Rhode Island, looks like when in doubt, get the ball inside to Mike Amon, who winds up making a good move to the basket, getting back to the free throw line. Rhode Island began to turn it around in that first half by getting to the free throw line, opening up some stuff on the perimeter for themselves. Right now, Norfolk State doing a great job playing on the perimeter, also closing off the inside and getting and rushing back to the outside shooters. So Rhode Island having a tough time being able to find open shots.
Milosevic is up and stretching, not heading towards the locker room. So looks to be okay. Amin gets one of two. 4-point game. Foul was on good, his third personal. Turnover, Norfolk State. Up quickly to Mumford. Malone calling for it. Hasn't had his shot from the field so far tonight. Now he'll try. He was 0 for 5. Maybe he just needed to stretch out the range a little bit as he knocks down the three.
He did do that. He gave up a shot right at that three-point line earlier in that possession. Just think that he needs to be able to knock a couple down to get his confidence.
Fuentes. Hawkins may have traveled once, maybe twice. Last touch by Rhode Island. Norfolk State basketball. Take a look at Malone's first field goal. It's a good step or so beyond the three-point line.
You know, and Andre Malone has such a good stroke. He's a good shooter. He just needs to get his confidence, get some rhythm in that in his offensive game, and he could be big for Rhode Island this season.
Jordan Hare back on the floor. He's out there with Powell, Big B, Mumford, Malone. Last touch by Norfolk State. URI basketball on the side with 15 to shoot. Malone to trigger to the inbound. Milosevic ready to check back into the game. Here he comes. Big B takes a seat. Powell goes to work. Less than 12 minutes to play in second half. 1-point game. Milosevic was out of action for 2.5 minutes. 2:33 to be exact. And he picks up where he left off. 16 now for Milosevic.
Well, that certainly is a good sign for Rhode Island. Milosevic coming back in the game, moving well, coming up with that offensive rebound. Rhythm seems to be back in Rhode Island's game, but where they're going to win this basketball game and where they began to turn it around is certainly on the defensive end. Cannot give up shots to Norfolk State, particularly on the perimeter.
Rams back in front, holding on to the lead, but only for the moment. Gaston puts it up, and the foul. A chance for a three-point play for Norfolk State.
Yeah, Jordan Hare comes back into the basketball game, and Gaston takes advantage. A little bit bigger physically. Jordan Hare not quite strong enough to keep him off the glass.
Third personal on Hare. Timeout on the floor. 1-point game. The Dunkin' Donuts drive of the game. Off the injury, onto the court, and Milosevic taking it to the basket. Didn't work the first time, but hung with it for 2 of his 16 points. Hurry in the Dunkin' Donuts today for the unmistakable taste of the smoked sausage breakfast sandwich. It's unmistakably delicious. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary. Limited time offer. Milosevic leading all scores with 16 points. Brandon Good leading the way for Norfolk State with 11 points and 12 rebounds. Gaston can't finish off the three-point play. 11 minutes to go in the season opener. A foul called on Rob Johnson.
And not a good foul by Rob Johnson that time so far away from the basket. You talk about mentioned Brandon Good and the productivity he's had in this game. Of course, he's playing behind a great player from Norfolk State, Kyle O'Quinn. Didn't really have that much of an opportunity to play, but certainly is taking advantage of this opportunity today.
Milesevic from Munford. Hare out there with the three personal fouls. Milesevic puts it away. Can't get the hoop, but a trip to the free throw line coming up for one of just 3 seniors on this Rhode Island team.
Well, obviously, Rhode Island feels like they can take advantage of Norfolk State going one-on-one quite a bit this half and getting into the lane. That time, Milesevic again clears out, gets into the lane, once again to the free throw line to make 2.
There's the first. Almost got you there, but you said make 2, not take 2, right?
Yeah, I meant make 2.
Make you sweat out the first one.
Because I put a jinx on Mike Powell in the first half.
That's right.
Where he had those three free throws, missed the first one and made 2 after that.
He does make 2. 18 points for Milesevic. Hare, Milesevic, Malone, Munford, and T.J. Buchanan, the 5 on the floor right now for Rhode Island as they bring bodies into the backcourt. Substitution for Norfolk State, A.J. Rogers will come in as Chris Brown checks out.
Nick Milesevic had his difficulties shooting free throws early in his career, but he certainly corrected that. He's a very good free throw shooter now, very consistent.
Seemed to struggle with shooting overall last year after such a strong sophomore year where he started 25 games, made 46% of his three-pointers. Down year a year ago, but a great start here tonight. 18 points has Rhode Island on top by 1. Williams feeds it to Rogers. Rogers, a little drag in the lane, nothing called, bouncing around, and touch last by Hawkins. URI basketball.
And Norfolk State playing just a bit more physically right now. Got away with a couple fouls in this possession. There you see Hawkins pushes Xavier Munford out the way, but ball goes out of bounds on him.
Well, you can see the argument, though, that he thought it went off the foot of the official, and it looked to be true on that replay. You can see that maybe he had a case. Halfway through the second half. 10 minutes to go. 1-point lead for Rhode Island. Milesevic can't leave him open tonight. And you can't foul him when he's attempting a three-pointer. A chance for a 4-point play coming for Nick Milesevic.
And Nick Milesevic coming into the season, talked with him a couple times. He was so confident, and you see how confidently he's playing in this game. Nick Milesevic doing it on the outside and on the inside. Right now, Nick Milesevic on fire and demonstrating that senior leadership that Dan Hurley wants from him this year.
As he heads to the free throw line with 21 points. You mentioned, as you've attended practices here in the preseason, the fact that you'll be watching for things like we just saw, getting the shooters free and teammates working to get those open shots that we just saw.
Absolutely. And they work very hard to do that. Sometimes the player's going to come off 2, maybe 3 screens. And if they're patient, they're going to find Xavier Munford. They're going to find Nick Milesevic. They're going to find Andre Malone for those perimeter jump shots. And of course, when they have those opportunities, they have to make them.
To the basket, counted in the foul. Fuentes, who gets the start here in the second half, to the basket and a chance for a three-point play.
Well, both of these teams really challenging each other. Norfolk State not backing away in any way, shape, or form. This time drives right past T.J. Buchanan. Is not able to get any help. Fuentes doing a nice job getting into the lane.
Three-point play for Jamel Fuentes out of Brooklyn. Pressure in the backcourt. Malone grabbing for it. And a foul is called, I believe, on Malone for URI.
Oh, just a bad play that time. Mike Powell just being very careless with the basketball, makes a bad pass in his own backcourt. If Winters does a nice job getting his hands on the ball, Andre Malone does a decent job inside, grabs the rebound. I don't see how that's a foul in any way, shape, or form. He did not come down with his arms. He kept his arms straight up in the air, got the rebound. That was not a foul on Andre Malone that time.
Foul is assessed to Malone, though. That's his second. Fuentes, size advantage on Powell, takes advantage. And a foul called on Norfolk State.
And Fuentes is not normally an offensive player, is not offensive minded in terms of shooting the basketball. But as you mentioned, Eric, there's a size advantage there, a size disadvantage for Mike Powell, and they're going to look to exploit that if they possibly can.
Correction, Malone had picked up his third personal foul. We're even at 47. Milosevic checks back into the game. He's on the floor with Malone with the 3 fouls. Powell, Amen. Now Munford will come into the game. I'm counting 5. Those some moving parts there for a minute, but there are 5 on the floor right now for Rhode Island. Even at 47. Milosevic wants the basketball. You can tell. Tough shot. Came up short. Rebound for Norfolk State, and they're off and running with Fuentes. Only Powell back. Malone hustles back. Tipped up and in. I think it was Fuentes who will get credit for the basket. He's having a strong second half. Mumford tries to answer right back. Blocked at the basket. Rejected by Rashid Gaston. The freshman comes up with a defensive play, and Norfolk State on top by 2 with the ball. Williams has been quiet. Milosevic grabs it. Malone wants to settle things down. Powell's calling for it. Amon limping a bit coming up the court. And a player's down back behind the basket. I think it's Munford, isn't it? Yeah. Munford down back behind the hoop. I did not see what happened. I had no idea that he was back there. They stopped play. He's limping back towards the bench.
Boy, Rhode Island living on the edge here. Munford, winning really hard. And once again, may have come down on another player's foot and sprained his ankle just a little bit. Couldn't see exactly what happened there.
Well, it's off the drive. He goes to the bench, getting worked on there by a very busy Mike Montero here tonight. Buchanan, Brooks, Milosevic, Malone, and Powell, the 5 on the floor right now for Rhode Island. And Rhodey had all the momentum. They are on top 47-42, trying to build that lead. But since that time, a 7-0 run for Norfolk State and the Rams out of sync.
Yeah, a couple unforced turnovers in this second half, for Rhode Island, making it difficult. These possessions are going to become very precious as we get into the last 10 minutes of this basketball game.
Fuentes tried the no-look inside. Milosevic saw it all the way. And a foul called on Rogers in the backcourt. That will get us to our 8-minute timeout, and that will get URI into the 1-1. So free throw or 2 coming up for Nick Milosevic out of this timeout. 2-point game on opening night. Turnover. Powell with Buchanan back in the game. Powell, the spin move, spins it in for 2. That was Mike Powell in the first half, taking it to the basket. Beltone Hearing Aid Center is the most trusted name in hearing aids, offering free hearing tests. Call 800-925-HEAR for an appointment today. Butterfingers opening night. Ray gave me half a bump and it knocked the card out of my hand. I am not in midseason form yet. Making a mess.
Time to do a little ad-libbing when you don't have your cue cards.
Definitely not up to speed on that. Milosevic makes the front end of the 1-on-1. A reminder, his career high, 25 against Yale, December 18th of last year. 1 of 2. 1-point game, 7 ties, 8 lead changes here in the season opener between Norfolk State out of the MEAC and URI. Johnson with Malone there defensively. And a traveling violation. Bobbling the pass was Malcolm Hawkins. And he gets the turnover call. 12th turnover for the Spartans. Malone. Rebound, Norfolk State. Fuentes all the way, blocked by Ryan Brooks. Another block for Brooks, who's been pretty strong on the defensive end. That's number 3 for him. Milosevic out of control. Brooks, the putback, not there. .45 to go, second half in a 1-point game. Williams, the feed inside for 2. The freshman, Rashid Gaston, has his second field goal of the second half.
Nice execution on the offensive end by Norfolk State that time. They were able to isolate, get a switch, and force Mike Powell to have to play Gaston in the middle, of course. That's a huge advantage for Norfolk State.
Powell threw it up, couldn't get it. Buchanan came flying in to keep it alive, and it was last touched by the Spartans, so URI basketball. Malone 1 for 7 from the floor tonight. Buchanan looks for Malone. Lazy pass for Milosevic, read well by Hawkins. Easy throwdown.
This is such an important part of the game right now with just 6 minutes to go, and Rhode Island looking a little ragged on the offensive end. Offense looks out of sync, and Dan Hurl's going to call a timeout and try to get it back together.
5-point lead for Norfolk State. And a timeout called by the Rams with 5:51 to go here in half number 2. While they talk it over, we invite you to join the conversation on the web. Cox Sports has up-to-the-minute updates on the web covering all your favorite local teams. You can find us on Twitter. She's looking right now. Twitter.com/Cox Sports. Pretty decent crowd here on opening night. Not a full house for this first game of a new era. I'm sure there's a curiosity factor, and we talked before this telecast started about the buzz around the new head coach and a new era and a new start, but also that reality of there's going to be challenges night after night with a new coach, a new system, and new players in a very tough non-conference schedule in an increasingly tough Atlantic 10 conference as the season goes along.
Well, I mean, you can certainly see it at different points in this game where URI has gotten out of sync a little bit, and Norfolk State has been able to dominate sometimes on the defensive end. That last steal that they came up with is just a lazy pass, but also the fact that Rhode Island not taking advantage of getting inside to the basket against a team that's pressing, on the perimeter.
Out of the timeout, Mumford took it to the basket. Obviously back on the floor after taking that tumble a short time ago. It's Rhodey basketball on the baseline with 10 on the shot clock.
And of course, we talked about Rhode Island having a short bench, and they've been pressing. They look a little tired right now, quite frankly, and they just don't have as much zip in their defense or as good as execution on the offensive end as we did see in the first half.
Milosevic and Hawkins both assessed technicals. That's the announcement in the building. So Hawkins and Milosevic, who are, well, at least there's a little smile here on one side.
You know, in this game, we've seen Norfolk State go down by 5 points, and they've been able to kind of creep right back into the game. Rhode Island really has to do the same thing. So this possession right now, they've got to get a good look at the basket. They've done a nice job getting inside, forcing Norfolk State to foul. But if they don't get it, obviously an open shot, they've got to find a way of getting inside and forcing them to foul, especially being the fact that they're in the one-on-one situation right now.
Powell in for Mumford. 7 on the shot clock. Malone gets it off and knocks it down.
You had a good look on the angle that time. I didn't hear you call it that time, Eric.
Well, all apologies to Andre. He hasn't had the hottest hand here tonight, so I wanted to make sure. Knocks down to 2, 11 points for Malone. 3-point game.
One thing we did see there was very balanced. Ball came off his hand real nice. Excellent rotation on the ball. And that helps it go in the basket.
Johnson. That won't go. Milosevic tipped it for Brooks. Rhode Island can tie it with a 3. 4:40 to go in the second half. And a foul called on Hawkins. That'll be team foul number 8 on Norfolk State. And Nick Milosevic will be at the free throw line. If he makes 2, he'll match his career high.
Well, Norfolk State has been denying passes all over the floor all night, forcing Rhode Island to make their passes way out in the perimeter. And let's face it, Milosevic has had a really good game, and they don't want him to touch the basketball. That time defending just a little too tight.
Can't make the front end of the 1-on-1, and Norfolk State has it. 4.5 to go in a 3-point game. Johnson for Williams. Williams guarded by Mumford. Williams got it, and the foul. Experienced player coming up with a clutch play. Hasn't scored a lot tonight, but scores when the time is right, apparently.
Well, absolutely. He is nice job coming to the baseline. Ryan Brooks kind of in no man's land, didn't really come out to put any pressure on Pendarvis Williams and help Mumford out that time. Nice body control. And as you mentioned, an experienced player comes out this time and makes a great shot.
7 points now for Williams, a chance to add to it. Junior out of Philadelphia finishes off the 3-point play. 8 points for Williams. 6 points. Now the lead for Norfolk State, their largest of the game. Malcolm Hawkins takes a seat. Rams led by 5 at halftime. Norfolk State came out, went on a 13-3 run to start the second half to go on top by 5. Teams have gone back and forth a little bit, but Norfolk State with 3:59 to go in the second half and a timeout on the floor, on top by 6. Free throws for Milosevic when we come back. % for Rhode Island, and Rhodey hasn't piled up the assists here tonight. Those 3 assists and holding for Mike Powell. 6 assists total for the team so far here tonight.
Yeah, a little less offensive continuity for them, and certainly Norfolk State, they found a couple of weaknesses in the Rhode Island defense, and Rhode Island's help defense and switching hasn't been as crisp in the second half as it was in the first. And how important are free throws, especially when you have one-on-ones and situations where you get 2. Rhode Island wants to get to the free throw line, but they have to convert in this latter stage of the game.
Rhodey now 19 of 27 from the free throw line. 6 of 9 in the second half. 5-point game. Williams 4-3. Too strong. Brooks, who's done a good job on the defensive glass tonight, and when it comes to patrolling the paint with blocked shots, has it for Rhode Island. tipped it out, and the Rams go to work. Milesevic, Mumford, good shooter. Can't get it to go.
And Rhode Island has had a couple shots like that go in and out, and right now they need anything that's around the rim to go in the basket at a very critical stage right now with about 3 minutes to go in this game.
The feed inside. Brooks, give him another block. That's his 4th to go along with 8 rebounds tonight.
Haven't seen him this active since in his entire career here at URI, doing the job on the defensive end.
Powell has the shot blocked. Another one is knocked back, but he's fouled and will go to the free throw line. So a trip to the free throw line for Mike Powell in a 5-point game with 2:57 to go. He's 2 for 3 from the line tonight.
Mike Powell at his size, really take a lot of courage to get inside that way. Certainly at a disadvantage. Really quite fortunate to come up with that foul inside.
Rams have gone cold from the free throw line. Now 60% from the stripe in the second half.
Yeah, here's where poise and confidence comes into play. URI has had opportunities getting to the free throw line. They've got to be able to make these free throws.
0 for 2. Johnson on the deck. Rhode Island bench looking for a travel to be called. It was not. Williams for Johnson. Johnson takes it to the basket. Offensive foul. No hoop.
Well, the senior Ryan Brooks, who really hasn't had much of an opportunity to demonstrate his skills in his career here at URI, doing a nice job on the defensive end. Here he gets good position, gets his feet solid on the floor. Johnson goes right into him, knocks him down. That's an easy call for the referees that time.
Ryan Brooks played a grand total of 7 games last year, scored 6 points, but he's done a lot of the little things here tonight that's going to earn him more playing time. Powell kicks it outside. Open look, Malone. Halfway down, came out. It was a good look. Looked good coming off his hand. Still a 5-point game.
That was an excellent look. And I said Rhode Island has had 3 shots like that that have gone in and out of the basket. They've also had opportunities to make free throws. These may be the kind of plays that makes this game slip away.
Hawkins to the basket. No, but left alone was Brandon Good, who has put up big numbers. Timeout called by Rhode Island. Good, who came in with the expectation to try to replace Kyle O'Quinn, has lived up to his end of the bargain so far tonight.
Well, he certainly has, and that time he was able to come up with that offensive rebound because of the breakdown in the Rhode Island defense. A player is able to get to the basket. They had to have help defense. Left Brandon Good all alone underneath the basket. Easy play for him. But he's taken a challenge. He's come to play, and he's doing a very, very nice job in this game tonight.
13 points, 12 rebounds for Brandon Good. Largest lead of the night, 7 points right now for Norfolk State.
And Norfolk State has come in and played a good game. This is a team where a lot of the players haven't had their opportunity to play because they had such a good team last year. But they've got some talent, and to come into Rhode Island, not say that this game is over by any stretch of the imagination, but they can come in and steal this one. This would be a great way for them to start the season. And for Rhode Island, where they've had the opportunities, missed some shots, certainly missed some free throw opportunities, and had some shots go in and out. Could be a very different situation right now if they have been able to take advantage of those opportunities.
1:45 to play. Williams guarding Milesevic. Powell lost the handle. Still plenty of time on the shot clock down to 12. Munford, tough shot. Rebound grab by Williams. Milesevic gets whistled for the foul. 18 fouls on the Rams, 1 and 1 coming the other way for Norfolk State. 3rd foul on Milesevic.
Yeah, decidedly different look for Rhode Island on the offensive end, where we've seen where they were a little bit crisper, not putting the ball as much on the floor, a lot more one-on-one play for Rhode Island in the second half. And it's a difficult team to play that way because they have size and they have quickness and they're very tenacious on defense. In Rhode Island, just not able to take advantage playing one-on-one the way that they have in the second half.
Williams makes the first, second coming for Pendarvis Williams. Well, even though there are 4 new starters on the floor for this Norfolk State team, people saw what they did to Missouri in the NCAA tournament last year, so they come with a bit of a bullseye on their backs in some ways because they had experienced an NCAA tournament win. And a strong second half from Norfolk State has stretched the lead out. Brooks on the offensive glass can't hold on to it. And it'll be Norfolk State basketball with 1:08 to go.
Well, they were picked by some as, really to be a sleeper in the MEAC. And they even got 1 or 2 first-place votes in the preseason polls. So people recognize that there's some talent on this team, and they could perform at a very high level again.
Ball was last touched by the Spartans, so it is URI basketball. Williams doing a good job just trying to keep the ball out of Milesevic's hands. Extending the defense. Milesevic to the basket. Lays it in for 2. 26 now for the senior. It's a new career high. And on that note, let's take a look at the Supercuts most valuable Ram of the game and the night for the senior here in the season opener. Abu.
Well, he's done a nice job all game long, inside and outside. He's the one guy who's, in fact, keeping Rhode Island in this basketball game. A much more confident player. Senior leadership from Nick Milesevic, certainly on the offensive end. He's a player that they know they're going to be able to go to when the going gets tough. He's demonstrated it tonight. Unfortunately for Rhode Island, they're going to really have to play great in these last 50 seconds in order to come up with the win.
Williams makes the first free throw. You see the line for Milesevic. Career high 26. Go along with 8 rebounds. With the game on the line, Pendarvis Williams has wanted the basketball. He's come up with the free throws. He had the key field goal, and he's been the guy on the defensive end trying to limit Milesevic. Malone, strong take to the basket, counted, and the foul.
Well, this is a time of desperation, and the game is definitely not over. There you see Andre Malone taking it coast to coast, coming up with the deuce, and here's an opportunity to make another free throw. If that happens, then Rhode Island is a two-possession game, and certainly with 45 seconds to go, that's plenty of time. But they're going to have to rebound the ball effectively and play great defense.
So Milesevic is our Supercuts most valuable Ram of the game. Wherever you go, there's a Supercuts to give you a cut that rocks. Supercuts has 31 Providence area locations, all dedicated to making you feel like a rock star. Check out supercuts.com to find a location near you. Rock the cut at Supercuts. Foul is on Brandon Good. That's it for him. He fouls out with a double-double tonight. Malone going to the free throw line. 13 points, 12 rebounds for Good. Malone can't finish the three-point play. It's last touch by Williams. It'll be URI basketball. 7-point game, 43.8 to go. Milesevic will check back in.
While the free throw shooting for Rhode Island in the second half really has been their Achilles heel. Great opportunity, but just not able to convert.
Oh, Malone tiptoeing. Could have let it go into the backcourt to save it. Here's Norfolk State trying to put it away with 37 to go. Johnson into double figures with 10. Balanced scoring tonight for the Spartans. In their first game since losing to Florida in the third round of the NCAA tournament, Norfolk State has come to URI and put together a strong second half. They play a very difficult non-conference schedule. They'll be at Seton Hall on Monday. Non-league games include trips to Illinois and NC State. And right now for Anthony Evans, looking like a successful trip to Rhode Island.
And
going to be a pause here. I think, excuse me, Abu, I think that was number 5 on Milosevic. That's why we have the delay here. He doesn't want to leave the court, but he will with a career-high 26 points.
You know, and we mentioned it before. Very confident, very poised. Although a lot of players on this Norfolk State team haven't had the opportunity to play a great deal, but you just have the sense by playing on that team last year that they feel confident. They know what they can do. No panic in their game whatsoever. They asserted themselves in the second half and took advantage of every opportunity that Rhode Island gave them and really wore this team down in the second half.
Shot clock is off as Powell brings it across half court. The debut for Dan Hurley will be a loss at home, but we saw some things here tonight that you can certainly build on. That's the finish for Norfolk State as Gaston throws it down, and that will be the ball game. Rhode Island was on top by 5 at halftime, but some of these Norfolk State players that were